All right, we're going to move along, and we're in for some very good comedy coming up here, okay? They are now going to discuss the Trimet Writers Survey, and this is the kind of thing you're going to see. Approval of the job Trimet is doing, the bus system, and the MAX remain high. 82% of respondents approve of MAX. 75% approve of bus, and 72% approve of Trimet in general. Majorities rate both MAX and bus as reliable. 79% say rated as 5.6. We'll go over this ridiculous bogus survey. I've gone over it for many years now. And 70%. So we know that's wrong. We know that's ridiculous, and we know these are made up figures, and it's not true. It's not reliable. We know that. We listen to it, but they've done a survey. We'll go over it as they go over. Let's just start here. This is going to be funny.
And non-residents alike across the three counties where Trimet service runs. And this, as I indicated before, this is the first time we've had the survey completed since 2018. And joining us today is Executive Director.
Okay, so they haven't had it done since 2018. But they've been doing this for years, and for years I've been questioning every survey that they've done because they're bullshit. Okay, I'm just telling you. It's ridiculous.
Director of Public Affairs, J.C. Vanetta.
It's Vanetta. Yeah, there's your hack. Vanetta.
Also has Michelle with DHM present.
And they always
Thank
have.
you, President Simmons, and good morning to you.
It's DHM. Let me just look at this for a minute because I want to just. Of course, you go to my fabulous blog to get all this information. Let me just read a little bit of this to you here. Let's just start with me explaining some of this. Let's talk about the research methodology. The address-based mail to online survey consisted of 1,412 residents. So they asked 1,412 residents these questions. Postcard invitations were mailed April 2nd, asking residents to take the survey online, offering a $10 gift card to those who completed the survey. The postcard included instructions in 6 languages. Online response began to be entered on April 4th. Survey took 30 minutes, and it took 16 minutes to do it. The sample for the study was generated from a random selection of all Portland residential mailing addresses within Trimet service area. In addition, to ensure adequate representation from groups with historically lower response rates, we included an oversample to the address located in census blocks with higher than average proportion of low income. Historically, the Attitude and Awareness Survey has sampled counties proportional to the total population at the county level. Because fewer Clackamas County residents are located within Trimet service area, this means we also oversample in Clackamas County. The target number of completed surveys was a minimum of 1,000 responses. Based on the response rates from the pilot survey conducted in 2018, and based on streamlined mailing schedule with one invitation only sent to each person, postcard invitations were mailed to 80,000 households. So out of 80,000 households, they only got a response of 1,412. So they mailed 80,000 and got 1,000. That's like 1.5%. Were ultimately turned. Okay, response rate of 2%. I don't think it's quite that. It's under that. But it's like 1.75 or something. Sample sizes varies by question. This is a sufficient sample size to assess residents' opinions generally and review findings by multiple subgroups. All right. Okay, we'll look. This is what they come up with. Okay, they have all of this is like the hardest thing to understand. Anyway, there's 1,400 respondents. They sent out 80,000. So they're just random people they sent this to. Random people. We don't know who they are, but they're they're going to respond to this thing. And there's, you know how these surveys work. It's not like good service, fair service, bad service. It's like good, somewhat good. You know, they have different levels of good so that they can project it as good. So we'll go over this. Let's see, Vanetta.
To you and the board of directors. Before I introduce our main speaker, Michelle, I wanted to thank two members who on the team who led this year's Attitude and Awareness Survey. Lonnie Nielsen, our Director of Marketing and Business Development, and Ginger Shank, our Senior Research Analyst. Both of them led the charge to put out our Attitude and Awareness Survey.
Yeah, I'm sure it was tough job for them.
This is a key piece of research that we do for our agency that identifies what people are thinking and feeling about Trimet and the service we provide. All of us, and I do mean all of us at this agency, have a role in these results. On that note, I'd like to introduce Michelle Ness, who is president of DHM.
And DHM has been doing these forever, man. It's always DHM. It'd be nice if they tried somebody else for a change.
We've been working with Trimet for nearly 7 years. In fact, Trimet was one of our first projects at DHM, so she's been leading our annual ANA, Attitude and Awareness, we call it ANA internally, since 2015. One of her major areas of focus is transportation, in particular, public opinion about transportation funding, which is key. DHM is a local opinion firm with over 40 years of experience. With that, Michelle, please walk us through the findings of this year's ANA survey.
Thank you, JC, Director Simmons, and members of the board. I am happy to be here today to talk about Trimet's Attitude and Awareness Survey. As JC mentioned, it's done regularly to track approval of the agency, ridership, awareness of Trimet's project.
Now, I can just tell you right off the bat that it's not, they're going to say that 1,400 people have, give you this impression. Okay, there's 1,400 people, and the Portland population, it's just Portland, is 650,000, and the Portland greater metro is 1.4 million. So 1.4 million people are basically affected by Trimet, and they have 1,400 respondents. So that to me represents nothing. That's nothing. I mean, if you have 1,400,000 people, you need more than 1,400, and they just sent them to random addresses. They're just random. Who knows who they are? I just told you how many people they sent them to and how many people responded.
And rider perceptions of services. In addition, some of the new questions we asked this year were about potential future use of Trimet and community behaviors. And for those of you who have been here before, I did want to highlight a little bit about methodology this year. We did change.
No, the Portland metro area population is actually 2.5 million. So let's get that straight. So out of 2.5 million, they have 1,400 respondents, and we're supposed to think that somehow is representative of the population. Okay. Now, some of us still have critical thinking skills. I know most of us don't. We believe whatever government tells us, we believe it because we've been programmed to believe it. But some of us can think critically, and I know that this is nonsense. Okay, it's just nonsense because there's no sample here. Okay, you need like at least 200,000 respondents to get an actual sample. That would be 10% of the population, not like 0.0001%.
Change the methodology. So in April, we mailed invitations to people in the region to take the survey. In the past, we have used phone and text. And one of the benefits of doing this mail invitation is that we were able to provide the invitation in 6 languages, and we were able to have, surveys in all those languages available for people immediately. We were able to get 1,412 residents in the service area to respond back in April. We do weight to census for age, gender, and county plus ethnicity to ensure results are representative. I will note that our sampling plan does include oversampling for census blocks because it's address-based because we're mailing. So we oversampled census blocks with a higher proportion of people of color, low-income residents, or both. Next slide, please. One of the questions we track is just actually general attitude about the metro region. And we have here that sort of greenish line is the right direction. So that's the percentage of people who think the area is headed in the right direction. And what you can see is that 22% of the residents think it's in the right direction. This is a historic low.
See, now this right here, this one statistic should tell you the rest of the story. So they just told you that 22% agree that everything is okay, and 56% say everything is fucked up. But then when it comes to Trimet, you're going to see they think it's wonderful. So that doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't work.
We have been finding this at DHM all year long in 2022. But honestly, going back to 2010 earlier, this is unprecedented negativity in the region. And 56% think the region is on the wrong track. And just because it's relevant, one of the big questions is why, right? So it's not, we aren't showing it. It's in the large report that you have access to. But the biggest concerns for area residents are houselessness, crime, and affordable housing. So that's what's really driving this negativity right now. Next slide, please. Okay.
This is a joke because we know it's not reliable. We know that from objective criteria, okay? We know that it's not reliable. I'm not just using some bogus survey. I know what's going on because I take the time to listen to the operation. So I know what's happening. And we know that it is not reliable.
Ask people to rate how reliable the service is on Max and on Bus. And this is based on what they've seen or heard. So we ask everyone, even those who don't ride, what do they think? And what you can see is that a majority of people there in the blue box, 79% rate Max as reliable on a 7-point scale.
All right, stop. Wait. All right, now let's take a look at this survey, okay? Okay, here's how they have it written down. Strongly approve, somewhat disapprove, and strongly disapprove. Now, it should be good, fair, poor. I mean, I've said this in a million presentations I've done on this. They're doing this to make this, they make it like this so that it comes out positive. So they add the somewhat approved into the approved to give them 72%. When that's not approved. I mean, yes, you will get there eventually. it might take you like 3 or 4 hours to get home, but you will get home. They generally, there are situations now where the last buses and trains of the day are being canceled. But this is how they fake the statistics, by going strongly approved, somewhat approved. Because no layman, no person who has no knowledge of Trimet, and these 1,400 people have no in-depth knowledge of the systems that we do. Why would they strongly they probably don't even use it. They don't have any knowledge of what's going on. All they see is the Trimet propaganda, the news media propaganda. They don't see what we see. So, these surveys are faulty on multiple levels.
So 5, 6, 7 are the positive ratings, and for bus reliability, 70% see the bus as reliable. So both of these are positive, right, above the average or the midpoint of the scale. It's a majority of people giving positive ratings.
And it's bogus. It's 1,400 people out of 2.5 million.
Also note that this is a decline since 2018. In max reliability, it's a decline of 4 percentage points. It was 83% in 2018. In bus reliability, however, it is a decline of 10 percentage points from 80% in 2018. Next slide, please. Nonetheless, when we look at approval of the job Trimet.
And we have the same thing, somewhat approved. The only thing that should be approval is strongly approved. That should be into the category of approved, not somewhat approved. Okay, somewhat approved would be fair. See, that's why they should have 3 categories: approve, disapprove, no opinion. Okay, they don't. They want to make you so you actually, this is ridiculous. Strongly approved, somewhat disapproved, strongly. See, approve, disapprove, no opinion. That's the survey you want, not this shit. That's why these surveys are useless, because they make the questions nebulous. And nobody wants to condemn their government, Everybody loves their car. I think as a general rule, people love their enslavement. I think they love being abused by government. And so they don't understand that they are being abused. So they're going to say somewhat approved. Somewhat approved is not approved. That's look, I'm not going to keep going over. You know what I'm saying.
Trimet is doing. We see fairly stable responses there. So this is showing approval over time in 3 areas. The top line is
and look you can see, look. 2013 was the lowest approval. It's like absurd. And 2022 is almost the highest, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Trimet has consistently gotten worse over time. But these approvals maintain their exact same, they're always 70, in between 70 and 80, no matter what the year. It doesn't make sense.
Blue is approval of the MAX system. And in yellow is approval of the bus system. And then the sort of very thick line is a green line of Trimet job approval. And so historically we see...
So look, even their own systems, okay. Trimet job approval is lower, but the max approval is higher, and the bus approval is higher. But see, it doesn't make sense. You see what I'm trying to say? Their survey does not make sense.
Max approval is the highest. That is true this year as well. But again, even on the bus, for example,
they're saying this is so absurd. So the approval before the pandemic is 78%, but the approval now is 82%. Does that make sense to anybody? Are you actually believing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just garbage, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this episode, because it's just garbage. It's garbage. This is garbage. You're getting garbage statistics here.
That little yellow line even though reliability ratings have gone down, approval is actually, 75% versus 74%. So it's really staying quite stable. So what that tells me is there's probably recognition of some challenges in bus routes and service on the bus routes, but that the general public still has a positive attitude. They're giving TriMet the best.
Now let me get this. I do believe that the majority of the public is okay with Trimet. I do believe that because the majority of the public doesn't understand what's going on. There's nobody paying attention to this in in-depth ways like I am, and there's a couple other people that actually pay attention to what's actually happening here. Nobody pays any attention to this. And I think generally speaking, from the people that live in the area, they've been propagandized to believe that TriMet is one of the best transit systems in the world, and they don't know anything about transit, but they believe the propaganda because it's been coming out for decades, how TriMet is the most wonderful agency ever. And so they buy it, they believe it.
Benefit of the doubt that TriMet is doing its best is how I would interpret that result.
Yeah, well, that's how you would interpret. I would interpret this as a phony survey.
But again, that is my interpretation of what that means. All right, next slide, please. We also ask people.
So that's amazing. So this is wrong too. So they're saying the ridership. They're saying the ridership is up from the pre-pandemic. Self-reported rates of ridership are not significantly different from two. They're higher. They're higher. And we know factually that's wrong. We know that that's factually wrong. TriMet's own statistics will tell you that ridership is down 50% from pre-pandemic. But this survey is telling you that riders are using it more than it's wrong. This is factually wrong.
How often they have ridden TriMet in the past 12 months. And so here again, I'm presenting those numbers from the past 12 years. And the top line is people who say they've ridden TriMet at all. And then the bottom line is people who are ride a little bit more regularly, at least twice a month or more. And so we're kind of separating them out. And what you see here is that the numbers look about the same as 2018.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's factually wrong, folks. We know that's factually wrong. We have objective facts that tell us less people are riding now than in 2018. But this chart says more people are riding. So it's factually incorrect.
And so in some sense, this might be a little bit surprising. So I just wanted to...
It's not only surprising, it's wrong. Okay, it's not right. Factually incorrect. Your survey's lost all validity just based on this. Because you know that less people are riding, we have the statistics. So this says more people are riding, so it's wrong. Your whole survey is wrong. You can't dismiss the objective criteria. You can't do that. That means your whole survey is not valid now.
Acknowledge that and kind of walk through some interpretations for why that may be true. We know that there are fewer riders, and this was in April.
Where are you going to address this? Maybe she'll talk about this.
Or fewer rides being taken. And so a couple things. One is that some people we know from questions in the survey are riding less now than they used to. So maybe some of those people that are riding twice a month now used to ride twice a week, right? They're riding less now than they used to, but they're still riding some. And then the other thing I want to acknowledge is that this is a case where our change in methodology needs to kind of give some pause to looking at changes over time. when we call people on the phone, we don't tell them why we're calling. So they'll end up taking the survey for Trimet and they don't know at the beginning who it's for. When we send out mail invitations, they know who it's for. And so you do have a tendency to get people who are ready to support Trimet, maybe more likely to take the survey. So I would just put a little bit of a caution in interpreting.
Yeah, put a caution in, say it right out. These figures are wrong. Okay, it's wrong. 2018, this figure should be like 25% or 20%. This figure should be 60% or 55%, not higher than 2018, because it's just wrong.
That change over time. But in general, the good point here is you've got a really strong percentage of people who still write Trimet, and there's room there to increase how often they write Trimet and continue to make those improvements to entice them back.
Yeah, right.
All right, next slide, please.
All right, look, stop. It's good. I can't watch all of this nonsense in one sitting here. We'll finish up, but this is just garbage. If you have critical thinking skills, you can see it as easily as I can. And it's too bad that I don't have a way to get this information out to the general public. But I'm shadow banned. I'm sent off to the far reaches of the internet. And so there's no way anybody's going to find this out. They're going to see the propaganda that comes over the mainstream, and they're going to believe it because that's what people do.